Look how little I am. I'm so small. I'm a small guy doing small guy stuff. What's up? I'm tired. I was up super late playing who's shaming people? What does that mean? No one's shaming anyone. Do you want wait, do you want me to? I have something for that. Hold on. Oh, I think I'd have to restart the stream to get it to work. But let's see if it works. Let's do audio output capture. Voice changer. No, I don't want audio output. I want audio input. Oh, so glad I turned off desktop audio because that would be loud. Audio input capture. Voice changer. Let me do this one. How many filters do I have? I have a thing that I can make my own filters, Sarich. I can do that. Hold on. Let's see if it works. Let me mute this one. We don't want to spoil anything.
That's how that means a chipmunk. Can you hear it? How's it sound? Wow, it sounds horrible. Can you guys hear it? What about me? What about me as two hamsters? Can you hear it? No? It's echoing. What do you mean? It can't echo. What? It's just me as two hamsters. What about... Where is it?
This one. Super scary. Ooh. Ooh. What? The demon wants to eat hamsters. What does that even mean? What about this one? Or it could be T-Pain.
T-Pain. It's so good. You know what we should do? We should recreate the Lich King voice in Voice Lab. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna recreate the Lich King voice. What? Oops. Until Quantum Potato shows up, we are going to just do. Well, that sound looks really loud. Until Quantum Potato shows up, we are just gonna hang out. We are going to chill. We're gonna wait to do the review on Roll20 versus versus Foundry because I wanted to I prepped that just for him. So here we are. Hmm. I don't think we can do the Lich King very well, but let's see. Can I customize it? What does it sound like? What? I don't even hear it. Hello? Hello? I don't hear the reverb at all. I don't understand. Don't message at all. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Stereo. Oh. You. What's tremolo do? Oh. Yep. That's annoying. Uh. Vocoder. What is this? Oh. What? Oh. Oh. I like it. Broken. Broken. What's bug fixed? Ooh. Wow. A delay. Yeah, don't text and drive. Don't do that. I don't hear the reverb. There's no reverb at all. Oh, my chin itches. I think I have an ingrown hair or something. Let's make me big again. Ooh. Oh. The light is killing me right now. What do we got going on? What? Oh, whoa. Now I sound like a radio guy. Radio guy. What's this one? Oh, what on earth? Both of them together. Oh, ooh, yucky. Next time on Gora, the Avatar. That's so fun. What does this do? Oh, chorus depth. What does that mean? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what this changes besides adding a ton of stuff. Flanger. Oh. Oh. Don't be angry, kitten. Don't be angry.
Double pitch. Oh, what the? This is weird.
Okay. So I can hear the hate it. I can hear the reverb now. Oh. I am the Lich King. Brah. What does he say? What voice lines does the Lich King have? Oh, so they. Ooh. It's very loud. See, I need to add. I wish I could reverse it. Slow it down, flip it, and reverse it. I would have to be able to reverse in order to do the Lich King voice. I'd have to be able to reverse the actual audio input. Might just record that and do something with it. No, we're not saving. We're just gonna hang out and mess with some stuff. Wait, what? Do 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 do. No, I have. Well, I did, but Quantum Potato isn't here right now. I wanted Quantum Potato was the one that asked me to figure out. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is stretch. Oh, okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start reviewing Roll20 versus Foundry because that's what Quantum Potato wanted. I'm not even gonna make a video of this. I'm just gonna do it. Let me turn on Roll20. So let me make myself smaller. Wow. Put myself. Well, no, let's put myself over here. Excuse me. Sorry. What does she want? Sorry. Yes. All right. I have to take a break and I have to go help bring groceries in 5 minutes. And then we will get it started. But for the most part, we're looking at Roll20 right now, and some of the issues that I personally have with Roll20 is that the main one is if you're making a new scene. Look at all the scenes we've gone through. You make a new page, and then oops, I didn't want to do that. And I also have some custom scripts running right now to make it look better and make it more easy, which for the most part you shouldn't need it. That's my other issue with it, is you shouldn't need it. So that being said, if we're to go to this brand new page, it's white, it's horrible. It doesn't have like, hey, set my default background to black. You have to come in here and you actually have to change it by hand. And then for that, you have this like background, right? But it's preset, and if I want to put an image in there and I go to do that, for example, if I want to bring in like this little, oh yeah, then I have to change layers, and I have to put this on the layer, and then I have to pray that it's like scaled correctly, and then it doesn't scale right. Where in Foundry, if we're to come to Foundry, what I can do is I can just make a new scene, right? I can come to the scene, preset up my file path with, for example, we're just going to use the same one, where if we were to make the scene active, right? This is what you have. You have a huge grid, but the scene itself changes how big it is relative to the size of the, we're going to turn the voice changer off. The size of the scene changes relative to the picture you put on there. For example, if I put this terrible scene in, I hit save, and the whole scene changes relative to the size of this, which I could see the size of the grid, but I don't know the size of it. At this point, I could probably measure, it's 1.5 times, I think, or it's just over twice. The grid should be like just over twice as big. So what I could do is I could say like 200, right? And save that. That's a little over 200. It's probably like 210, 220. But I don't have the picture adjusts, the grid adjusts to the picture, not the picture adjusts to having needed to adjust to the grid. That is one way that it makes it easier. Then for the specific example of this scene, which we've seen before, I just pulled up a different version of it. There is like the lighting. The lighting is integrated into this, and keep in mind that Roll20 is free. It's great for being free, but Foundry, if you want something really quality that's not directly affiliated with Wizards of the Coast, you're gonna get quality with the that you don't have to pay twice. You don't have to pay twice for everything, because if D&D Beyond could hurry up and get on their game about making a full virtual tabletop, that would be ideal. Primarily, so I don't have to pay for the content twice. If I want to get spells from a specific spell book, I don't have to make them manually, because that is just the most annoying thing in the world. And yeah, so one of the other ones was lighting. So I can come to the wall tool, and you can see the walls that I've built already, right? So if I click on Elficus, for example, he can only see so far. And then he can see which doors are open. I can click the door and it opens it, and it does it automatically. And then it does lighting, it does all those things. But if I want to put more walls in, all I have to do is come here, hold control, and it will add, and they're automatically connected. So there'll be no gaps. And it also has a grid that's associated with it, so your lines are guaranteed to be straight. So now when Elficus runs in this room, you can only see what's in the room. And that literally takes no time. It took 5 seconds for me to make that relative to my size. So if I want to add a secret door, for example, this one is supposed to be a secret door, I can make this wall come out to here. I can make this wall come out to here. Oh, nope, I don't want to do that. Don't hold control when you're doing that, because that just kills your thing. So that being said, now I have control. Yep, I'm on my way. So I'll be back in a second, guys. Dang it. Wife came home with groceries. I had to help her. That's all I said. And then the purple one's a secret door. So when we look at it, I can see that it's a secret door, but he cannot. Or he can, only because I'm in charge of it. But if I was to connect to like an observer account, you could see that there's no door there. But yeah, it's just a lot more intuitive overall. And I like it better. Makes more sense. The only other thing is you can actually change the base lighting on it. So the darkness level, you can change it to basically 100%. So that it's super nighttime. And then when you add a light source, you can actually see like bright light in the middle and then dim light at the outside. So this is like basically what dark vision would do. The representation of dark vision is what he can see normally. And then you can actually go from nighttime to daytime. You actually click a button and it goes, it brings all back up again. Oh, and then my favorite aspect of this is absolutely insane. So if I get on D&D Beyond, right? This is the craziest part. Is so Foundry runs on a bunch of modules. Okay, so let me go back to like the return to setup. And you could literally get as many whatever modules you want. Mine is my favorite is the D&D Beyond integration. Okay. Roll20, if you make a character and then you try and integrate into Roll20, you just can't do it because they don't have the capability without, like, I think the API can do it, but then you have to subscribe for the API and you have to do all sorts of other stuff. So the main thing is the D&D Beyond integration. So once you get that going, it's actually so ridiculous. So we can actually go here, and for example, let's go to one of my, do I have a character on here somewhere? I do. Yzdras Khan. So I can copy that, and then I can make a new character, a new actor. Doesn't really matter what their name is, because then you click on this. Then you paste the thing here, and it gives you a link. And then you can hit Alt-B, or Alt-click. Did it not work? Oh, it did it, but it did it in thing. So it gives you the full JSON, which is like a definition file for that character, right? So you copy the whole thing over. And then you click this again, and you paste it. JSON invalid. I mean, sure. Copy. Paste. Boop. That's it. My whole thing, my whole character's here already. So literally inventory with my crossbow. So when I roll my crossbow, I have my full. It's actually wrong because it's not using my intelligence, but it doesn't understand the concept. So a lot of feats and things are not. I don't have Google Chrome. So he's not blue, actually, Sarich. He's gray. His skin is light gray because he's lost his coloration. Hey, one old man in chat. What's going on? But that's how easy it is to put a character. Oh, I don't have any of my Reddit spells either. Put a character from D&D Beyond into Foundry. It's so ridiculous. What? It is the new software. One old man in chat. It's called Foundry VTT, and it was $50. And Cap was generous enough to purchase it for me. And it works so well. I actually enjoy it a lot. I think it's better than Roll20. I think you get what you pay for. With Roll20, they're just developing a lot of things, and they have licensing with Wizards of the Coast, which makes it really good. But I shouldn't have to pay for content more than once, specifically rule books and spells and things like that. So at this point, I'm just patiently waiting for D&D Beyond to actually make a thing. Does each individual in the party? No, actually, not at all. Eyes and D. Just one person needs to buy it, whoever's hosting. And also, actually, anyone can buy it. Because if you want someone else to game master and you want to play into it, you can actually come to your players here, and then you can set up each player in their own specific thing. So you can give the game master their own password. You can give each player their own password. You can make your observer account from here automatically, and then it does it. So only one person needs to buy it, but they're the ones that need to technically host it. Whether or not it's hosted via web service or on your computer, it doesn't matter. You have to port forward to do specific things other than that. But yeah. This program is fantastic. Yes, he would be able to DM using My Foundry. And my friend is hosting it on his ISP, which is fantastic. What a Quantum Potato. If you have voice chat, I am going to be in the community channel. If anyone wants to come hang out in the community channel in my Discord, join the Discord, hit the thumbs up on the front thing, come join me in the community channel. We're going to have a conversation. Yeah, if you want to talk, we can talk, because if you have questions, come ask me questions. That's actually the best way to do it, because I want to know exactly what you want. Oh, and then the dark mode is like the coolest thing ever. So you have I have a bunch of different versions of the character sheet installed right now. Oh, I don't have the bot up. Let me bring the bot up real quick. It's also in the about section of the Discord. Which thing? There it is. Oh, come on. Don't be like this. Beep boop. You should just macro that or something. What is going on? My chat bot doesn't want to work. But either way, yeah, the about section is all the info on it. But for real, if you do have chat, come talk to me. Because especially you, Quantum Potato. So if you want to ask me questions, I can answer your questions better rather than having to read chat because it's delayed. So my head is like super washed out. I think I need to move that light or move my chair. Well, between you and I think everyone is about 50%. It's sort of the Ricky conundrum, in my opinion. What up? Is that Fred? Who is? Oh, hello, Quantum Potato. What's going on? Well, you should mute the stream. You should mute the stream. Oh, and I should probably turn on desktop audio. Here, I probably did something with my voice. I think my voice changer turned on, and
yeah, it's like confirmed.
Confirmed. Yeah. Okay, so what did you want to know about Foundry exactly?
I guess the first thing is what feature specifically does it do better than Roll?
Lighting.
We're mainly using it.
Lighting.
Right, cool.
The lighting, it's by default. So the whole like vision and lighting stuff is just something it comes with, and then everything else that you can do is just, it's all community based. And then if the community likes it enough, they integrate it into the program itself, like shapeshifting. So shapeshifting is awesome because if you're playing a druid, it's so ridiculous, right? So for example, if we want to turn Mogomak into Elficus, okay? If you watch the stream, this is all it takes to do that. Is you just put him over there, and then you say, I want to keep everything. I want to make sure that he has the best of the best. So we're gonna remove keep spells. We're gonna say merge proficiencies, and then we say custom settings. Bam, and now you have Mogomak as Elficus, and now he has like all the proficiencies and stuff. Literally, that's all it takes to shapeshift someone. Where in Roll20, You have to have the API, so you have to be subscribed. And then on top of that, you have to have all of your stuff with tokens. Like, you have to have so much stuff in order to shapeshift someone to begin with. Yeah. Shapeshifting is a big deal, especially for Steel Horizons, because Sorshana is a druid, and she's a moon druid even at that. So she needs to be able to do that, and it's like super simple to do that. And then to turn him back, all you have to just do restore transformation, and bam, it changes the token and everything.
What about the like the performance factor? Like, I know a lot of people, when you try to do dynamic lighting on Roll20, just,
half
like, lags out their computer.
Half as much. Well, mainly because I'm having it hosted on another server. I don't have to worry about that. The main thing that you do need is a hardware accelerated browser. But from my experience, I've had every single character logged in with dynamic lighting, and my computer can stream and not lag at the same time.
That sounds so good.
The dynamic lighting is done in a much better way, in a much less resource intensive way.
I love that.
Did you see the uploading of D&D Beyond characters? Did you see that?
I missed that part.
Oh, okay. So the best part is they have literally a module for anything that you want. For example, the character sheet. I'm going to show you the character sheet that I have right now. Well, I'm going to switch the character sheet to the Tidy 5e sheet, okay? And it looks amazing. But the better version of it, you can actually configure it to have an alternate dark mode that looks amazing, because then you can add all your special things to everything that you want. And the character sheet just looks better, and it's better organized for everything. For example, if I want to put heroism and shield on here, I just click and add that to the thing, and now they're up front. They're literally up front. If I want his crossbow to be up front, I just bookmark that. His bag of holding can be up front. So basically, I have everything up front all together, right? And then everyone should have dark mode. Dark mode should be the default for everything, in my opinion. But you have everything that you need right here, right in front of you. And then there's really no such thing as like accidentally clicking on stuff anymore either. Because of the way everything works. So for example, if I want to make a Constitution saving throw, you just click Constitution and you click saving throw. Then you roll it at normal, and there it is. It's already there for you. So, yeah, like everything. It's not that everything is better. I would say that the uploading and versatility for very specific aspects of it, but the Foundry overall, I think, is much better.
Okay.
And also ease of use is pretty good. The only thing I would change is where the health bars are situated, and if we could put numbers on them. That's like the only thing I like better than on Roll20 than this is health bars plus text.
Gotcha. Actually, I had a question. I don't know how you do your like player hand. Do you create like characters for all your NPCs and share them with your players, or
no?
How does it?
I have been doing this for so long that all of my NPCs I know by heart. Everything. I know everything about my NPCs. For example, Ricky. I was thinking about when I start my Patreon about releasing all my NPC stats, like 1 month at a time. Basically, have an NPC of the month that every Patreon gets to vote on, and then when that's voted on, I release the full stat block history and story of that NPC.
Oh wow, that is awesome! Like.
For example, Ricky. Ricky is a 17th level rogue and a 3rd level ranger. Ricky is a 17th level assassin with Gloomstalker ranger. So he is well, that's when he's at level 20. And all of my NPCs I have set up to level as everyone goes. So yeah. That's like it. And then I can't give anything about Skink away because Skink is like
spoilers.
Skink is super important to every campaign that I play.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and there's a reason that she is the way she is, and she's as powerful as she is. It's like, if we decide to play in the original world that she's from, then all of those things will be, they'll be done there. We'll see. We'll see after this current campaign. When one of them ends, I'll talk to my players and see if they want to do something else or what exactly they want to do. Egg is going to be on there too. Everyone loves Egg. When Egg showed up, everyone was like, "Oh, he's so awesome!" Imagine like a really, I don't know if you were around for Egg, but I don't know what episode. Sarah, do you know what episode Egg is in? Because everyone should watch that episode.
Oh yeah.
Like
for sure.
I could release the stat blocks on Caliber because apparently Caliber, everyone likes Caliber too. I don't know if you've been watching Steel Horizons.
Oh
but...
yeah, absolutely.
So
Actually,
yeah,
that made me think of one question that I don't know if you ever do this, but like if you ever have your like people fighting like sort of PC style NPCs, how do you balance that? Like for example, the bounty hunter guy in Steel Horizons, I'm assuming he's kind of like a PC stat block. He's not like a monster type where he has like a buttload of P.
Yes and no. The thing is for me mathematically, when I design an encounter, mathematically speaking, you have to make it to where you don't having an NPC or like an enemy per character isn't very fun. It can be fun when there's tons of them because they get to AoE them down, lots of damage, everyone dies, that kind of thing. That's super fun in some cases. But for the most part, I like to keep my NPCs limited and they hit really hard. The average damage for a player should be roughly 1/3 to 1/2 of a PC's hit points, always. Because you want your villains to feel powerful enough that if they crit, 2/3 of their hit points, possibly their entire set of hit points is gone in one hit. You want your villains to feel powerful, right? And also, it's like the fact that doesn't mathematically you cannot do that with the way that player characters are made. You just can't. It's like you can't design without going very specifically into very specific classes and then following their stat line on top of that. You're not going to get, for example, right now, Mogomak, I think, has 126 hit points, right? There's no spell short of Disintegrate that can hit for 60 plus hit points. There are none, like straight out the gate, especially since he has a reaction to it. For example, if my characters shoot, I want them to feel meaningful to the point where everyone knows that, like, I don't know, it's just really interesting to think about mathematically how to design an encounter around making sure your PCs know that every time they fight, their life is in danger, right? So straight from the beginning, you should, like, someone should go unconscious in their first combat, right? And then you set the standard from that point on, realizing that they can't be murder hobos because they are not the only powerful ones in this universe, right? That's how I stop people from being murder hobos.
Yeah, I actually really love that.
Is every fight should be a fight that they have to risk their lives for. It doesn't matter if there are a ton of goblins. If there are a ton of goblins, make them spellcasters. Too easy, right? Goblins, yeah, they may be weak. They may be able to get one shot, but a goblin that can cast fireball, that is an enemy worth remembering.
I really like that.
So
I guess one thing with that is some of these NPCs, like, I want them to fight them, but I don't. It's kind of going to be a double cross scenario where they may end up joining being allied with the party later. So I want to maintain an internal consistency so that they're strong when they fight the players, but I don't want to feel like they got nerfed immensely after they ally with the party.
So there's
later.
That's actually McVenner too. That is actually how I design my encounters, because I want every NPC to feel super powerful, because that's the way it is. The heroes are powerful, don't get me wrong, but if you have an equal, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Yes, Mogomak can hit for 200 damage in one turn, right? So can my NPCs, because that's fair. That's just how it works. Yes, Mogomak consistently gets blessings from the god of mad crits or whatever, but my NPCs have that ability too. Like everyone is like, oh, why do you let Elficus cast 2 spells per turn? Because my NPCs get to cast 2 spells per turn. I get to do 2 power word kills in 1 turn because Elficus gets to cast two power word kills per two chaos bolts per turn. Right? So like you said, you don't want your NPCs to feel shit after they join the party, right? There's ways to do that. What you do is if you want your NPCs to feel good and powerful even after they join the party, make them never go into combat with your players unless they absolutely have to, right? Because if your NPC knows for a fact that they're more powerful than the players, make your NPC's motivation for that group to only show up when they absolutely have to need it. Because I'm the kind of DM that if I realize that I have fucked up an encounter and it's too difficult, I will change the encounter to make it less difficult. Because that's more fun storytelling than killing everybody. Killing everyone can be fun, yes, in specific instances, and if your players agree to have something like that happen. If they enjoy having it happen, then yes, you do that. But if you're playing with a group of players that doesn't like to do that, don't do that. Right? Where if you want your villain to join the party eventually, leave them at the same power level, but only make it so that that villain will only ever come in if the party is in such a horrible situation that it's required, right? Because that's sort of like why Skink never gets involved, is because she doesn't have to. A, she has faith that the party's going to succeed, and B, technically speaking, her life is on the line when their life is on the line as well. You get what I mean?
I think I can work with that, absolutely. I guess that leads into the other question of the actual combat itself. Maybe I kind of painted myself into a corner here, but this NPC is kind of like a spy, so they're sneaky. They like to they're roguey, that's their kind of their character level is in rogue. But I don't want the combat to just be hiding and taking pot shots. I feel like that's not fun for the players. But otherwise it would just be charging in and dying. I feel like both those options are not very fun.
So there's ways to make it fun for the players. Okay, they're constantly rolling perception checks to see if they can see the character, right? That's one aspect of it. Everyone loves rolling dice, always. Everyone loves rolling. Everyone likes doing stuff. So this is a moment to force your players to think outside the box, okay? If your characters are fighting a stealthed or a completely invisible person that doesn't become uninvisible, for example, if he's like the Predator from the Predator, right? That dude can shoot while invisible. That is a terrifying thought, okay?
Yeah,
because they have a minigun. Get out of here. If I was fighting dudes with that much firepower, I would absolutely stay invisible the whole time too.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. Your rogue gets sneak attack damage whenever he gets advantage. When they can't see him, he gets advantage. So if you want to roll around that specific aspect, how many players do you have?
Right now I have 4. 2 of them are also rogues, which is part of the problem.
Okay. So your villain has goggles of detect invisibility. Or goggles of fairy fire, where everyone in the room always has fairy fire on. Okay?
Ooh.
Okay. Or possibly what you could do. So if your rogues want to take advantage of the fact that they are rogues and use their sneak attack damage, they are going to have to work. So make this fight incredibly difficult. Make it work for everyone. So my definition of a good fight is A, no one has any spell slots left at the end. B, at least one person is unconscious by the end of it. And C, no one has any what I like to call cooldowns left. All of their short rest regenerated abilities, all their long rest generated abilities, no one has any resources left at the end of the fight, and everyone is just punching each other to death, right? If that wizard runs out of spell slots and starts hitting people with his staff, you know this is a good fight. So that's the idea, is your rogues, if they want to use their rogue abilities, have to work extremely hard for it. If you want this stealth character to run around and take pot shots, that can be extremely fun, but you have to describe it well. Okay, for example, what I would do is I would say, you feel there is a cold breeze running through this room, and even though you guys are in a forge, right? If they're fighting in a forge, right? And it's super fucking hot. You're like a cold breeze suddenly comes over you and you feel as though something just passed by you. That immediately clues them into, holy shit, this dude is invisible, right? That
Yeah.
gives them the first clue. This dude is straight up invisible. And then all of a sudden, one of your rogues takes an arrow to the chest. And it's like, oh shit, he's invisible and he can shoot while being invisible. So what does that leave them to do? They have to improvise. They have to think it strategically. They have to start figuring out exactly what it is. This would be the moment where metagaming actually fits into the thing because they're going to be consistently talking to each other in combat. So when I was in the army, I was trained for this kind of thing. No one in their mind, if you're in combat and you're fighting, I've been trained to do this. I've never been in combat. I will say that. I will have caveat that I've never been in combat, but I know people that have. Combat is not quiet. There's no aspect of it that is. Yes, people can try and sneak around and stuff, but when you have firearms and like bows and arrows, people are constantly like shooting in a direction. They're just trying to find out where the enemy is. You're trying to gather information, that kind of thing. That's how real combat works, is everyone is talking to each other. What do you see? What's over here? What do you see on this flank of fire? How far away are they from you? All of these things happen all the time. So metagaming, in a sense, works 6 seconds at a time. The entire idea of metagaming can work and also can't work at the same time. Where as long as you limit people's ability to speak to only their turn, that's fine. And maybe actually have a timer that says you have 6 seconds to get whatever information that you want out, and then everyone else can respond to it. Right? They also have 6 seconds to respond to it, where technically speaking, everyone can talk to one another, but you want to limit it in that aspect because you want this to be an extremely difficult and strategic fight. You get what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So the idea that you have an invisible assailant is fun and is super awesome because what you can do is you can say, I need all of you to make a perception check, because the main idea is they will never know exactly where this person is. So what you could do is you could make a token representing said character that represents a shadow. For example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on... Here's how I make tokens, right? So I just go to ArtStation. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to make a shadow token, okay? Go to ArtStation, you look for shadow. Oh, this guy's cool. Let's do this guy. Okay, so we just download like this picture. And we save it in our big file folder, and then we go to what I like is token. It's token stamp. Okay, this website is awesome. It's not secured. Oh, it is secured now. Cool. So you come here, and then you refresh it because the token thing isn't working. And then what you could do is you could set your border to black, representing an NPC. That's what I do. That's what I have started now as a standard. If it's a black border, it's an NPC, okay? You choose your image. So we just downloaded this image. And then you scale this up to look like this, okay? And then what you can do is you could just hit download. And that's how long it takes to make a token. Right?
Yeah, that was like 1 minute. Amazing.
Exactly. So now we have a character that represents your invisible character, okay? And specifically with Foundry, it's fairly simple to do, but all you have to do is you can actually get a module for this specifically that it's called drag upload. So what I could do is I can actually go into my computer now with this token. I could drag it onto the board. And what that does is it pulls up a prompt that says, I want this to be an NPC, and bam, look, I have a token on there already. That's it. I have a token who has a stat sheet in my little thing. And what you can do is you can actually just leave the token. You can double click on the token, and we could say the token has X amount of hit points or something like that, right? Where now you have a token that represents your character, and you say, okay, make a perception check. And then what you could do is you could copy and paste said token and be like, okay, so for example, Elgar sees your invisible assailant here. Mogumak sees him over here. Linnea sees him in this corner, and Elficus also sees him in this corner. So that would give them what does that tell you? as a player. For example, let's say you're playing Linnea for the time being. What information, when everyone makes a perception check, like at the very beginning of the round, everyone makes a perception check for that round, right? Because we can always, what I always assume is your super high level rogue is always going first. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with making that a rule that says, hey, my character always goes first. Or maybe give him legendary actions that say, okay, after everyone's turn, he gets to take a shot, because 1 enemy versus 5 enemies is never going to work statistically. So that's why they give legendary creatures legendary actions, is you could do 3 of them per turn. You have 4 players. Okay, his turn, he shoots 1. On every one of their turns, he shoots a different one. So it might not be for a ton of damage, because technically speaking, he can only use, I would say, like, keep his sneak attack to like the first hit on his turn, then get away, like just do a little bit of plinky damage on everyone else, right? So you're just tink 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 tink, just tinking away at them with little bits of damage around the whole entire thing, right? So what that means is you have a way, what this says to me is when Linnea and Elphicus both see him in the same corner, that he's probably in that corner, so therefore it gives your spellcasters the ability to fight back for just a moment. And if they hit him, maybe everyone gets a whole round of physically seeing him. Like, make that kind of mechanic where he's enigmatic in the fact that he doesn't exist physically for everyone at the same time. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down so far?
Oh yeah, I'm actually trying to write some of this down, but then I remember it's probably gonna be a VOD later.
There will be a VOD. I don't know if I'm gonna upload it to YouTube because I had a little bit of like weird stuff happen earlier. But Mac McVenner too also asked, how do you deal with high HP variants? Let's say a character with 160 hit points. So the thing is for me personally, I would never ever let my PCs ever have that much high HP variance. First of all, I have played where I had a level 10 wizard that had -1 constitution, and I never rolled above a 2 for hit points. So my level 10 wizard had 6 hit points. That was the most incredibly difficult character to play because I could never contribute. If they knew I was there, I was dead. So what I do from now on, and what I always do, is if in Roll20 it also has in D&D Beyond also has the ability to do that, where you set a standardized hit points, which means you just assume that every time they roll hit points, they get the average amount of hit points, which is a D6 is 4, a D8 is 5, a D10 is 6, a D12 is 7. Basically, it's 1 above the half. So if you were to half a D4, technically it would be 2. But it would be 3 for a D4 specifically, and then a 4 for 6, and it just goes up by 1. The half of the average roll in a D20 is technically 11. So set that to the standard. So when everyone rolls hit points, if they roll below the average, they get the average hit points. So there can only ever be, so on a D10, for example, if Mogomak rolls a D10 on every hit points, he'll automatically get the 6 if he rolls below that. But if he rolls a 3, even at level 10, that's only a 30 hit point variance. So you don't have that massive, this character is incredible hit points, and this guy has 0 hit points. So that's how I do it personally. And then also, like, that same thing with rolling stats. I do roll 4d6. Actually, I just figured out the way to do it on here is 4d6 reroll 1, drop lowest. Bam. So I rolled a 12. And this is how I do it, is you drop the lowest, reroll 1s, roll 4d6. Okay, and then what I do is I take the lowest, I do 3 sets. So technically speaking, 1, 2, that was horrible. What I do is I roll, for rolling stats, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You roll this, and you have a full set of stats for that character. Okay, and then you do that 3 times, and then whichever one they want to pick, the first one, So I'd pick the second one, obviously, because it has an 18 in it. But what that does is it gives everyone the same general stat pool. But then what you do is after everyone rolls their stats, you adjust people's stats according to the lowest rolled. So if somebody wants to play a character that only has like a +6 overall, that's fine because then everyone is at the same power level, right? So adjust everyone's stats to do that. For example, the average stat set for Steel Horizons is 14. The average stat set for Seeds of Destruction is 14, I think. I think they're both 14. But Shiva rolled a +18 overall. I think she got two 18s, two 17s, and two 16s. I think it was her actual roll, which is fucking incredible. I was like, I'm not letting you have that because that's just so ridiculous. That's how I deal with HP variance. What other questions do you have?
If you don't mind, curiously for Foundry VTT itself, how customizable is like the character sheet itself? Because I have like some custom stats that I like to import in sometimes.
What stats are you talking? Like what? Give me an example.
So an example would be in a campaign that I'm currently setting up to run. I have a durability system with equipment known as notches.
Okay.
So all equipment has like an extra little like text block that just says notches, and then you just increase it by number 1, number 2, number 3.
Oh, so
And,
that's
you know,
like stages of wear and tear, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So in Foundry, that's actually sick, and it's super easy because all you have to do is go to, for example, Mogamax Greatsword. What you could do is you could go into the details, and you can actually technically have limited uses, for example, or resource consumption. So what you could do is you could have material, and then you can have, for example, you could have notches as like a stat or like something in their inventory. And then as you do that, you could have it start off with 5, and then as it loses hit points. So you could basically make something that's integrated into this that works with the system, or you could even macro it. There's macros for everything, right? So technically speaking, you could macro it to where you could make a new macro, and you could have a global script that says, for example, if you wanted to add the attribute to the greatsword, all you have to do is find that basically you could find, for my compendium, I have macros for like everything. Equip, unequip, shield, all these exist here. So what you could do is you could technically find out all the stats on it, but you could macro it that every time they use something, it rolls a percentile, and then that says, okay, so they rolled under the threshold. Well, that threshold determines that they've lost a notch, for example, with your system. And then that way they can actually have the stats already integrated to their items and that kind of thing. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I got it.
That would actually be really easy to do. Like, even with the system that they currently have on Foundry. On Roll20, that would be an actual pain. Because you'd have to...
It was an actual pain. Actually, I have a character sheet.
You would have to have... For me, I think you would have to have, like, literally a separate stats sheet that just involves notches. Where in this one, you could actually have a set amount of uses, technically speaking. Or... you could integrate a percentile die into the roll that they roll on here, because all you have to do is add another action, technically speaking, or ammunition. You could do it with ammunition if you really wanted to. You could just add ammunition, a separate ammunition, as long as it's not, like, for me personally, I don't think bows should take deterioration ever. Ranged weapons, unless they're firearms, shouldn't have deterioration in them. The likelihood that you, like, if you know how to take care of a bow, you understand that it's not going to break unless you hit someone with it.
It's mainly just like for when they get hit.
Oh, okay. So like, yeah, that makes sense. Because you could actually set up specifically that there is an activation condition as well that you could actually script into it if you wanted to, that script is hit or something, because you could actually set up targeting systems and stuff like that in Foundry as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's actually a way to do that, because what you can do is, for example, I can click on Mogamak and I can say he's targeting him, so that when I roll for my greatsword, I believe the last time I did this, it will actually roll and tell you if it hit. It's not doing it. But there's ways to do that. I'm pretty sure there's modules to do that.
Okay, cool.
Access as far as material. I really like what I'm seeing from it, but I like the ability to just implement stuff from the library. That's true. The modules, everything is there pretty much. The SRD and the base D&D content stuff, but you can import whatever you want. It's actually really easy to do. I mean, you can import an entire, like, I think people have modules that are exclusively adventures that they've already pre-made. So, yeah, that's massive. I didn't realize we had so many people in here because the streaming mode on Discord turned everything off. Yeah, and just the I forgot to show you. I wanted to show Quantum Potato how ridiculously easy it is to import a character. This literally made my day. Like when I found out that it was, right? So
I'm so ready for this.
we create a character. So we're gonna say that this is Potato, okay? And we're gonna import Yzdras Khan. That's this guy's voice. This is the first character. This is the first character I am going to be able to play in 15 years. By the way,
And it's named Potato.
it is right now. It is right now. So what that does is we've linked, basically linked his character sheet, in this specifically. So now what I can do is I can hit Alt and click this, and what it does is in that window it opens up the source data specifically for Yzdras. I literally can't help but say people's names as if they say it. For example, Ishindros from yesterday. So now we have the source code for that character sheet. Okay, I paste it, and there he is.
All right, stream delayed for me. Still looking.
Yep.
Oh, dang it! You just paste it in there, and it's instantly. Oh,
Yes.
what?
So there's a couple things that you have to change because it doesn't understand the concept that because I'm an artificer and I'm a battlesmith, that there are some things, one old man in chat, there are some things that just don't work because it doesn't understand that because I'm a battlesmith I use my intelligence when I'm shooting stuff. But that is easy to change because you just go to details and I say, okay, my attack modifier is my intelligence, and it fixes it. That's it. So there's a couple things that you have to change. For example, Mogamak has proficiency in wisdom saving throws because he got resilient mind or whatever that feat is called that gives you proficiency in wisdom saving throws. The Foundry doesn't see that, but all I have to do is click the proficiency for wisdom. That's it. How long did I giggle? Cap was there, and he was laughing alongside with me, like with how easy it was to put a character from D&D Beyond into it.
That is absolutely insane. This is. I feel like more people should be using Foundry. Like, it's such a pain to make a thing in Roll20, but this is like you just copy paste it over. Wow, incredible.
I've seen Foundry flaunted a lot. I've just never got around to actually.
Yeah, and from what I saw the last time I saw it and I looked at it, I didn't really didn't appreciate a lot of things that they were doing, and I didn't really understand it. But now that I've actually have it and look into it, it's actually awesome. Oh, thank you, MacVenner. I really appreciate that more than you know. And also, I just want to know from you guys in general, like, would you be interested in having a Patreon where I like release a bunch of the things I've written? I'm not going to promise that I can write the whole campaign out for you, or like I could probably make a world book eventually. But I mean, for Steel Horizons, over the last 3 weeks, I have done 220 hours writing Steel Horizons.
My goodness, that is some A+ dedication right there. And it shows. Every episode is so amazing.
Thank you. Like I work exceptionally hard at it. So
that's some mad props, Devin. That is absolutely what I aspire to be one day, but not there yet.
And in November I will have done this for 20 years. So
That'll be happy anniversary.
I've been doing this since I was 14.
Very
That is
cool.
awesome.
And my older brother and his friends played with me, and I spent 45 minutes describing a throne room, and they were like, as much as I love that, I don't like that. And that's literally the feedback I first got, was that I don't like how descriptive it is, but you need to shorten that significantly. And I was inspired by my next door neighbor Jeff, who ran a RuneQuest campaign for me, and my first ever character, the first ever roll I got was a crit, and I chopped this dude's head off. And that's literally, we were murder hobos. But imagine you're in a world where the whole world is taken over by a sort of like fantasy. They're called cults in the game, but they're basically religious fanatics that worship the moon goddess, who's actually a blood god. So they've
Sounds
taken
like a cult.
they've taken over the world, but the cult that my guy belonged to is Humakti, and they're basically guys that swords is what they worship, and it's also the god of like, you can't become undead, but you can't be resurrected at all. Like, it's just not an option if you worship them. He's actually the inspiration for Eternus in Steel Horizons. Yeah, what's the implementation as far as macros and code? This is pretty epic already. I might just go by Foundry today. So macros uses JavaScript, and as long as you know what the attributes and what the powerful API, and then they have a bunch of community ones as well. For example, the community ones has Lay on Hands, Fighter, Second Wind. You don't even the problem I have with that one is you don't actually get to see a roll with it. It just does it automatically. And then your heavy armor feat gives you 3 hit points every time you take damage. Passive Great Weapon Master Mogamak uses, so when he hits it, it says he's hitting harder now, and then it reduces 5 on the attack but adds 10 on the damage. It does automatically. There's actually a hilarious one. It's just literally people talking shit to each other. Random cutting words is hilarious, because every time you cast cutting words or you use it, your character actually says something that's hilarious, and it's just random insults that are thrown at people. There's a lot of like cool community things that have done. But trust me, you don't have to do definitions. Everything is already defined. So all you're doing is you're making an object within your already set up hierarchy. So then you should play a bard, Sarich. If you're gonna do that, play a bard. Bards have some of the most fun abilities in the game, and they are the most powerful spellcasters in the game, hands down. Literally, it's incredible. So I personally think Bard's the most powerful spellcasters in the game, like hands down, because technically speaking, you have every single spell available to you, except for me personally. I don't let them have Eldritch Blast because that's Warlock stuff. If you want Eldritch Blast, you make yourself the worst class in the game. Okay, that's what you do. Sorry, I say I haven't played in 15 years, but I played with my little brother, and it wasn't really playing. We were just running around killing stuff. There was no role play involved, or very little.
But Warlocks are great for RP.
Yeah, but that's it. That's it. It's like, cool, the RP is over. Eldritch Blast! So I started Eldritch Blasting.
You could always Hexblade it, I guess, but then you just be swinging the sword around.
But a Hexblade will never do as much damage as a fighter, or a paladin, or a ranger. Literally, that's the issue, is they don't do anything better than anyone else.
Oh no, I agree with you 100%. I had the buff with one of my players in the campaign I'm running. I had to house rule some buffs for the Warlock because otherwise they felt too weak to me to actually keep up.
No, and all they need to do for Hexblade is let them use two-handed weapons and give them a fighting style. Give them a fighting style. Let them use two-handed weapons and ranged weapons.
You could just give them like a feed.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is in order to make Hexblade good, give them the ability to use two-handed weapons as their weapon, and then give them a fighting style. Literally, because I would love to play an archer-based Hexblade Warlock, dude. Oh, it'd be so good. Because then you have Hex.
There is an evocation that allows them to make their packed weapon into a range one.
That's,
really?
Unearthed Arcana,
Yeah.
though, right?
Is that Unearthed Arcana?
I'm not sure. I think it is.
But that
Let me do it.
being said, the fighting style would literally fix it. It would fix it so good, because then you could have archery with it. You could have You could have great weapon fighting with it. You could have, if you wanted to do the single weapon stabby boy thing, you could use a rapier, and then you could use the duelist fighting style. Or if you wanted to have 2 weapons as your packed weapons, there's just so many options that would balance it to be so much better. If they could fix Hexblades. The Hexblade specifically is the one I have issues with. Also, they should have 1 more spell slot from the beginning and end up with 2 more spell slots total. They should have 5 or 6 at the end. They don't have enough spell slots to justify, because no one is going to be like, oh, the Warlock's out of spell slots, we're going to take a short rest just for that. Unless you're all Warlocks, no one's doing that.
Nope. The pact is it's not UA anymore. I thought it was. They made it canon.
Yeah, it's a improved packed weapon. Nice little thing.
Yeah, but still doesn't
Yeah,
give them
I
access to
agree.
two-handed weapons,
Yeah, it doesn't give 2-handed weapons.
which is
They still have
dumb.
to-
Which is like nobody wants to use a longsword or warhammer. No one wants a D10. Nobody. That's so. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to me, and the fact that they don't get shield proficiency either. That's just like, why do you hate warlocks so much? What did the warlock ever do to you? So they're my favorite flavor class. They're my favorite villain class too, actually, because you can multi-class into some really ridiculous shit. So you could make like a level 15 warlock. Their Tomb of Levistus gives them 150 extra hit points. Like, yeah, good luck with that. Even Mogamak would struggle to break that shit. And then the second he breaks out of it, oh, look at that, a 9th level Hellish Rebuke. Good luck.
I think Warlock is probably like the best class for multi-classing, because they just work really well. But by themselves, standalone, they're just not as strong as they could be.
Yep. And technically speaking, if you multi-class into Wizard and Druid, you can have 3 familiars.
Is there not like a limitation? I thought there was.
I would
I thought
never
you
I
could
would
only
never impose that on someone. If you want to have 3 familiars, you have 3 familiars.
You know what you could just do? Just give them their level 20 ability to level 1, but like reduce it down to a certain amount of spell slots.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so the whole warlock thing just makes me so mad. And that's like how dirty they did the first initial release of Rangers. Like the Rangers, the base Ranger, the newest Ranger, the UA Ranger is so good because they take all the best aspects of all the advanced classes of Rangers and put them into the baseline. They just baseline it. Like they have, all Rangers have advantage on initiative. Oh, it's so good. They get bonus damage against, they actually get bonus damage against their preferred enemy. That's like, why don't they have that? That should just be a baseline thing.
They also get like a pseudo sneak attack effect where if an enemy has a move, they get bonus damage on it.
Yep. Literally, Bugbear plus Rogue plus Gloomstalker Ranger means that if you hit someone with advantage at level 6, okay, you're doing 12d6 plus weapon damage.
That's like more than a
Is it, like,
fireball, man.
Also, if you give them a polearm, they have 15-foot attack range.
Oh, right, because bugbears can extend their range by 5 feet.
Yes! So literally, if you give them a spear, they have 15 feet of attack range. So it's like, hey, I can see you behind those boxes. Yeah! And they just stab you in the head with the freaking spear from nowhere, doing 14d6 damage at level 6.
Balance. Definitely balance.
It's like, all right, I guess I'll just die. So, there's some really fun stuff that you can do with specific races and classes. For example, a lizard man at level 1 with enough dexterity will have 20 AC.
Interesting. I think I'm gonna play a lizard man.
If you can get 20 dexterity, you can start out with 18 AC because their base armor is 13 plus dex for lizard men.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? In what world is that fine? Because 18 AC without plate mail armor should not be achievable.
If you make them a monk, it's
Oh,
even better.
no, if you make them a fighter, they also have a shield, so that way you can get 20 AC, and then when you get dexterity to 22 with the book, inevitably, because everyone wants one of those, with the book, you can actually get yourself to 21 AC, like basically before level 5 if you do it right.
Jesus. This is
So yeah, there's lots of fun ways to power game it, but I try not to do that because I'd rather have a character that's interesting instead of being super powerful. Because for me personally, like my favorite role-playing system ever is the Star Wars role-playing system, where you're always one hit away from being dead. From the very beginning of your campaign to the end of the campaign, your ability to die never changes.
how exactly does that work? I'm not familiar with it.
So it's called Star Wars Edge of the Empire. That's the base game. There's a Star Wars, there's a Jedi, there's a Force user version, there is a Rebel versus Empire version, where basically it just changes character creation to like have different aspects of it. But the way it works is you have special dice that you can roll that are predetermined. So basically, let's say you have 4 brawn, you get 4 green 8-sided dice where one of the dice are blank. Do I have those dice with me? Hold on, I think I have. So this is 1/3 of my dice collection, by the way. Is I have a tin. You can't see it right now, but it's this big. This is 1/3 of my dice collection. I don't know if they're in here.
It's like invisible. That's so awesome.
I know, right? My green screen is doing work. But you have a D8 that only has one side that's bad, right? And then you have opposite D8s that are purple that are difficulty dice. For example, if you have 4 brawn and you're trying to punch someone, it's 2 purple dice. So basically, you're building a dice pool. You roll them all. If you have more success symbols than failure symbols, you succeed. That's literally just how the game works. So some dice can get upgraded. Some dice can get downgraded. There's different what are called advantage dice that are blue that are D6s that have 2 blank faces, and then they only have 1 symbol. Like there's a little bit better, but there's also black versions of that have defense and things like that. So your potential dice pool could be enormous. But the base system is that if you succeed, if you have more success symbols than failure symbols, you succeed. And that's it. That's just how the game works. It's super easy. And it's one of my favorite intro games to play is because it's so simple. And then everyone understands Star Wars, right? If I tell you you're on Tatooine, you see a group of stormtroopers in the distance on the sand, you know exactly what that picture looks like, right?
I go chop.
Exactly. But you I don't have to paint the picture for you because you already know what it looks like. There's so many references to it already that anyone that even hasn't seen Star Wars, if I say, "Oh, you see Baby Yoda in front of you," you know exactly what it looks like. Whereas I could be like, "Oh, this is a massive elven city." What does that look like to you? There's at least five examples I can think of what that looks like. Is it the Warcraft elves? Is it Lord of the Rings elves? Is it what is it? There's like a Shannara version of elves, or like sort of modern. There's the what is it? Basically there's just so many. Yeah, there's Warhammer elves, and then there's dark elves and high elves. Like just within that, there's like 3 different variations in Warhammer alone. So me describing to you what exactly an elf city looks like is so relative. It just depends on what universe you're in. Whereas with Star Wars, it's super easy. But when I say you're always one hit away from being dead, okay? A basic shot from a low-level blaster does 6 damage plus any extra successes. The average hit points on a character is 10. And it only increases by 1 if your brawn goes up by 1. And it's hard, if not impossible, to get it above 4. So a human will have, I think it's 10 plus brawn hit points, okay?
Mhm.
And if you're shooting a blaster rifle that has automatic on it, you are potentially taking 9 damage plus success points per hit if they hit you. There is soak and there's armor damage reduction, but genuinely, you're always 1 hit away from being dead. For example, a thermal detonator does 40 damage.
All right, so there's no surviving that one.
No. Just if a
All
thermal
right.
detonator exists, you are dead. Like, you are absolutely dead. There's no coming back from it. It's like, but that's what it is. Oh, and then lightsabers do 15 damage and they ignore armor, period.
All right,
I
so
mean, to
they
be
really
fair,
it's
sounds
exactly
more
what it-
realistic, right?
yeah, it's exactly how it's supposed to be. Like lightsabers, like literally cut through anything. That's the whole shtick.
Not everyone. Actually, the version I like to play is no one's a Jedi, because the first Death Star has just exploded in the timeline, right? So no one's a Jedi, and first of all, it takes years to train the properly with a lightsaber. The only reason that most
Supposedly.
well, you have to realize that Anakin didn't even get to use a lightsaber until he was like 15 or something. So he started when he was like 10, and it took him 5 years to master a lightsaber to begin with. So you have to realize that the Jedi in the movies have been training for most of their lives in order to do what they do. You can't just pick up a lightsaber and immediately block lasers with it. That's just not, well, technically speaking, Rey has done it, but that's a different thing because the Force is literally, she's like the biggest conduit of the Force that has ever existed, according to the lore. Anyway, so yes, there is lore aspects of that where there are things that you can do, but in the game, if you're playing a Jedi or a Force user, you have to specialize into using a lightsaber in that manner. And it's very expensive, and it gets really expensive, at least if you're not established as a Jedi beforehand, and you can use experience. And the other part is leveling up. You get to buy from talent trees and the skill trees and things like that, where you're not limited to, hey, I'm a ranger, I'm going into Bard, I get this specific set of skills. That's not how it works. If you want to be an assassin, but you also want to be a mercenary, you can actually go into the mercenary tree and unlock the ability to buy skills for cheaper and things like that. So it's truly freeform. And then they have the best mechanic I've ever seen, which is called obligation. So an obligation is, good examples of obligation in Star Wars are bounties. Let's say your character starts with a bounty. That automatically gives your character a reason to exist in the Star Wars universe, because there is very few, I've only ever thought of 1 or 2 characters in the Star Wars universe that don't have a reason to exist and to be there, right? Because I want you to truly think about it. Try and think about a Star Wars character that doesn't actually have an obligation or reason to be there.
Jar Jar Binks is the obvious answer for most people, I would say.
Okay, so Jar Jar Binks has an obligation that he's been exiled from his tribe, and he is trying to get back and trying to make himself legit when it comes to being in the Gungan, specifically in their culture. Right? Because he was exiled for being an idiot. He's trying to redeem himself. That is his obligation.
Okay. Let's go. What you say?
But that's what I'm saying. You're thinking hard about this. That's what brings all Star Wars characters together, is the fact that they all have a reason to exist in the universe, and that's what makes them well-written characters. Luke Skywalker's obligation changes every single movie that comes out. It's different on every single one of them. At the beginning, it is excuse me. At the very beginning of Star Wars,
Tarkin doesn't have a reason to exist.
Grand Moff Tarkin? He absolutely has a reason to exist. He's literally the only reason the Death Star program got off its feet. And his reason to be there is because he doesn't necessarily have an obligation, but he has is military. So basically, there's 3 different systems within this specific game system, and the Rebel versus Empire one, everyone has what's called duty. So if your duty is to if your duty is to go up in ranks, that is your personal motivation and what your reason to exist. For most of the Rebel people, for example, Leia, she's trying to avenge Alderaan. That's like her entire purpose of existence, is to make sure the Empire doesn't oppress people and do to Alderaan what they did to everyone else. It may not have been that at the beginning, but it changed to that the second that she saw Alderaan get exploded, right? That's her duty and not necessarily her obligation within that.
Grand Moff Tarkin would be to make sure that logistically the Death Star can run without any hindrance, right? So being the commander of a space station that is that big is an obligation in and of itself, because anyone in a command position has the responsibility of everyone underneath them being safe, being alive, and being held accountable for their actions. So essentially, when they say shit rolls downhill, that's exactly what they mean. In a chain of command, if you're at the very top, where Grand Moff Tarkin is, he has thousands of people underneath him that he has to realize and hold people accountable for their actions. And that's like his whole thing is his obligation would be command. Would technically be just the word command in and of itself. He's commanding the largest force in all of Star Wars, not in all of Star Wars history. There, like in the canon, there's actually bigger versions of it. But think about it. His obligation and his reason to be there is to be in command of one of the most powerful weapons in all of history. And that involves being in command of thousands of personnel that are all held accountable by their own superiors, who are held accountable by their superiors, who are blah, blah, blah. You go up the chain, and eventually that leads to Grand Moff Tarkin being at the very top when it comes to being on the Death Star. So you think he doesn't have an obligation, but I beg to differ. You get what I mean? Where if you think about it realistically, every character in Star Wars has a reason to be there. But that being said, in the game, if your character has a bounty, there's a table that I roll on, because your bounty is worth a certain amount of percentile on a percentile die. When I roll that dice, if your bounty comes up, bounty hunters will enter that session and try and kill you while everything else is happening. So every time you play the game, it will be completely different, because someone's obligation may or may not show up, which is super fun. For example, I had a guy whose brother, or his quote-unquote brother, was a Wookiee who had a life debt to him. Well, some bounty hunters for another character found that character's brother, took him, hung him off a building by his feet until they basically gave them all of their stuff. They had literally had to strip down to being naked, give them all of their equipment, and let them walk away, or that character's brother was dead because another character had a bounty that was involved in that.
Okay.
So it gives your character a reason to exist within the Star Wars universe, and it's the most amazing mechanic I've ever seen in a role-playing game, because that generates randomness, and it also generates perfect storylines that all fit within each other. You get what I mean?
Have you seen? Yeah, I get it. Have you seen like any other system that was like it or similar to it?
No, not really. I wish they would make a generic one that fits more universes, that just fits that way. But all the other games are really, really complicated. Like my favorite one is called Eclipse Phase. Have you seen Altered Carbon?
I have not.
You should watch it. If you like sci-fi, it is some of the best between that. So this is a role-playing game inspired by The Expanse, Cyberpunk 2077, Cyberpunk, which is basically the role-playing game that brought all that, the original books that brought that all about was Cyberpunk. Blade Runner. What's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and he goes to Mars? Total Recall. Altered Carbon. Anything written by Isaac Asimov is pretty much in there. So basically, imagine all of your favorite sci-fi universes smashed together in a role-playing game.
Okay.
It is amazing, but it takes 4 hours to make a character. And it's purely because you're rolling on charts the whole time. There's charts within charts within charts. Because you go, where were you born? Okay, so that determines X and Y. Okay? Well, where did I go after I was born? And you also have to realize that this whole role-playing system is based off of that your body is the least permanent part of you. That the body that you were born in is not the body that you end up in. And it also doesn't determine how your character works. For example, they have bodies that are basically robotic octopuses. And that is a body that your character can start in because of your history. And your history also determines your skill set and the things that your character is good at. It's all percentile based. So when you're rolling, you have to get lower than your number that you have. But as you're making your character, you get bonuses that are relative to your upbringing and also what happened when Earth fell. Because in the storyline, Earth is taken over by basically a race of robots that are they're not self-perpetuating, but they are aggressive, and all they do is they take the stacks they basically take your mind that is downloaded into a chip in your neck, and they remove that from your body, and then they store it, but no one knows what they're doing with them. So they basically exploded onto the Earth one day and killed millions of people as humans fled the system. And humans are technically the only race, but there are like the progenitor races somewhere out there, and that's part of one of the expansion books and things like that. It's called Eclipse Phase. It's really good. But it takes forever to make a character, and you have to have a very specific set of people that would enjoy that genre in order to make it work. So
That is the most advanced backstory.
it is. And it's actually really it fits the universe really well, which is why I like it.
Sounds very in depth. Sounds very kind of Shadowrun-y, but not quite as political as there.
True. Thinking about reading Dune. I mean, if you want to go through that like tome, your Dune is good. I personally don't like the universe myself because it's very contrived and it's not very realistic. And it's like, yeah, cool. You have guys with superpowers that get this like superpower generating dust from these big worms. Sweet. And political intrigue stuff doesn't really resonate with me very well, which is why I'm doing Steel Horizons, because it's all about that. So imagine a bunch of people trying to keep politics together while carrying around a nuclear bomb.
It's already building up to be quite a show.
I know, right?
I'm curious, have you ever ran like a very, I guess, like just RP centric, so like no combat but just purely interacting with NPCs kind of campaign?
I have, and that's actually what the Star Wars campaigns devolve into, is that people are like, if we get into combat, one of us is going to die. So let's avoid combat at all costs. That's how I like to run a very little combat, or as little combat as possible, by making everyone in the universe more powerful than the heroes from the beginning, right? So if the entire universe is level 11 and you're starting at level 3, how likely are you to fight? Not at all.
Yeah.
So that's how I do that, is you can force people. That's another way to make people role play well, is make them understand that everyone is more powerful than them, and talking your way out of things or having a proper discussion with someone is going to be more beneficial than fighting.
Actually, could I interject something? I have like the opposite problem, sort of, in a way, with my campaign. So I have like 3 party members who don't like doing this, but I have 1 party member who really likes to never kill the last guy and just interrogate them for forever and just get every drop of information out of them and then kill them. And then the other players just like sit around and like, just wondering, is there a way to discourage that without seeming kind of like contrived? They're not like trained soldiers that are gonna like hold out if you torture them. So
What I would do, if you have a party like that, so here's the way to introduce it properly with role playing. If your guy does that with every single enemy, make a witness that they cannot catch. Because if they're doing that to people, even enemies, creatures, and things like that, someone's going to know about it, and someone is going to not like it, right? This way, you can also introduce a villain that is recurring, or basically an enforcer type character that says, if you do this again, you're dead. Like, we will kill you. Like, there's ways to do that it's sort of like, have you seen Reservoir Dogs?
yeah.
Like, when that dude, well, you know the scene I'm talking about. When that dude is torturing that other guy, someone walks in on that, it's gonna be like a massive, like, torturing stuff is not okay. Or make it to where the other players have a voice in it. They have the ability to stop it. Make them realize that they can make him not do that, right? That they could walk away. Basically say, okay, you're interrogating that guy. What are you guys doing? And then basically make it more focused on what the other characters are doing. There's ways to do it Or introduce an NPC that goes with them that makes sure that they don't do that. Like, okay, your NPC, every time he goes to torture someone, shoot them in the head with a crossbow. Easy.
Ooh. Okay.
That's
yeah.
like, I'm not okay with you doing this. Bam! And he shoots him in the head with a crossbow immediately upon the interrogation starting. And then
Sure, yeah.
make that character powerful enough that your party can't do anything about it.
Yeah. I
That's-
see
that's-
DS Warden in the chat. Give him bad info. That could be one way.
That is true. Or make him make stuff up. Make it.
Oh yeah.
If your characters that they're trying to interrogate were enchanted at the time and they're no longer under enchantment, they don't know anything. There you go. It's easy as one person making just one insight roll that's high enough that they understand that this character doesn't know anything. Right? That's all it takes. Is a high enough insight roll to understand that he's not lying, and you make that extremely clear. They could walk away from it. The use of insight checks is extremely underappreciated, and a lot of people don't really know how to convey information well when it comes to doing stuff like that. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely ways to do that. You just need to put some thought into it. It's pretty simple. It's actually pretty simple mechanically, but with your storyline, you just have to put some thought into it, and it'll be
Yeah,
better.
I just don't want to make it seem like contrived. But yeah, for sure, these are some great suggestions.
It's like another good example is Star Wars. I just love Star Wars is by far my favorite universe in the ever because I think it's good storytelling. A lot of people would. I like the new movies. I actually like them a lot because it's another like everyone that has liked the new movies either read the books for the extended universe and wanted that, but you can't. A lot of that stuff is just you can't implement most of that in cinematics. So with Admiral Thrawn and stuff like that, yeah, I don't think it would work very well. But I like what they did. I think it's better. I think it's really good, and I really actually appreciate that they took the time to make something that good, in my opinion. So, but I'm looking at it purely objectively from a storytelling standpoint that I actually liked it. So, everyone has their opinions. If you don't value mine, that's fine. You're more than welcome to throw it out. You can do whatever you want. That's true. DS Warden is telling the truth that a person has to be trying to lie. A desperate, hysterical person might really believe what they're saying if they think it will stop. That's true. Or if a person lies enough in their daily life that they'll actually believe what they're saying. So, no, it's not the room. This is just example of showing them how Foundry works and why I like it over other ones. So, yeah. Is anyone
When
having
you're designing your encounters, do you like come up with the encounter first, or do you look at your party's abilities and say, how can I like make them push them in the way they're good at doing things? Or do you try and target their weaknesses? So like, what's your approach to creating enemies and their if that makes sense?
My approach to designing encounters is purely what is the overall hit point pool, what is the potential healing. So I look at it from when I used to play EVE Online a lot. Look at it as effective hit points, right? So if you look at a fighter, their effective hit points is generally their hit points plus about 15, depending what level they are. A bard or healing class that can heal, whether or not the player plays it that way or not, doesn't really matter. You also have to think about bonus actions for if you play with bonus actions for health potions, that kind of thing. Or if you know your players well, for example, I know Mogamak is going to prioritize damage over staying alive, always, 100%. That's just how he works. That's how Purge plays it. That's just what he does. So for me, I don't really care. When I design encounters, I purely design them around one big bad guy and a potential couple of ads, but maybe. throwing too many NPCs at it makes it really complicated and delays the issue I have with combat in most dice RPGs is how fucking long it takes. It takes too long.
Yeah, I hate
It takes
that.
too
Yeah,
long to
that's-
do combat, but there's no way around it if we have to think about it in a very specific, methodical way of doing things. Like there's a procedure. If you think about it procedurally, then you will have to. It's going to take a long time. No matter what you do, combat will always take a long time because we have to think about it procedurally. It's not a thing that you can just throw up and do. You can't just do stuff. You can't just like, let's have a combat because it's going to take a while because everyone has to figure out what their order is, what are they doing. But for me, I try to limit as many NPCs as I can to basically being either 1 for 1, 2 for 1, or 1 for everybody. It just depends on what it is.
That's an interesting point you brought up with the effective HP, because for classes rogue, like I mentioned, there's 2 rogues in my part. I feel like the effective HP for rogue is just based on how lucky they get on their stealth roll.
That's exactly.
Am I
it.
playing it wrong?
That's exactly it. Or if your group doesn't have a healer, and what I do is I always adjust. If no one wants to play a healer, that's fine. I just overload them with healing potions because that's more fun. If people want to be able to play the game, right? If you're constantly unconscious, it's not fun. Or like in World of Warcraft, if you're constantly crowd control, you're not actually being able to play the game. So it's like it's not super fun in that aspect either. So that being said, the proper usage of legendary abilities for a GM or game master, dungeon master, doesn't matter, for it to be fun, if you have a big villain, they should be acting every other turn at most, at minimum. If you have a big villain, if you have 2 people, what I would do is I would not let them go one after another, because then the entire party's action economy is just absolutely going to wreck your dudes. Absolutely 100%. So what I would do, like Divinity does, is make it to where your characters, basically you have a player or NPC, then a player, then an NPC. So basically you split it that every other one is going to be your players. And even if they hold actions, you still get to go, but you have to remember that actions can only be held if they set up a specific circumstance in order for them to do that. So And remember, your characters won't know that either. So don't metagame in the Fed to ruin their whole aspect of it. So it's one of those things that if you have an NPC that is like, if you have a player that is consistently holding their action, make a check, an intelligence check for one of your villains to say, oh, he's just been waiting for me to do something. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to do shit. Or yeah, it's basically just like it's hard to balancing encounters is extremely difficult. But one thing you need to realize is you can overtune something at first. The easiest thing I do is overtune something. Then when you realize that it's way too powerful, adjust. Your improvisation for GMing, improvisation is 90% of your job. Just FYI. If you're not good at improvisation, you should check it out.
And do you like to adjust by modifying hit points, damage, AC? What kind of attributes do you
For
prefer?
me, it's hit points. AC is super easy to balance. AC is incredibly easy to balance. For the most parts, no one should ever have above a 20 AC as an NPC ever. The only reason. So I don't know if you guys watched yesterday, but I'm going to give you some insight as to what exactly was happening. So with the Life Elemental, this is a enemy that have had designed for years. So the Life Elemental's hit points are equal to its overall stats. It has 100 in every stat from the beginning. That means it has a 55 AC. Right? So if they can actively attack its dexterity stat and bring it to 0, that means that it has a 5 AC after that. Which is the only reason that Mogomak was able to hit it with the 40 was because Elphicus or Linnea had done damage to it because it had to make a saving throw. and she did 30 damage specifically to the dexterity stat, which brought it down to 40 AC, and therefore he hit it, did more damage to AC, and that just created a potential thing for that, which is also why it only did a d6 damage. But if it rolled and drained your strength stat, that means it's doing a d6 plus 45 damage at 100 strength.
Okay.
So think about that, right? That also brings into the fact that everyone is hovering just under 100 hit points except for Mogamak. So that brings me to that half of their hit points should be the damage, right? All of that is the same thing. And eventually, as their stats begin to go down, they discover, holy shit, we could do specific damage to specific stats, and we can go from there. It was a little late for them to work, but I had already designed the encounter that after a certain amount of turns, other people would show up. Whether or not they were dead, it didn't matter. I had all of this planned because I've done this whole campaign before. I've understood how this works. I know how to balance this specific thing. So if you've been playing for a long time, you can understand that there are encounters that are more fun than others. There's two things that I've discovered as a dungeon master. One, everybody loves recurring characters, whether they are villains, heroes, allies, people that don't matter. Everyone loves recurring characters. If you could bring characters back, they will be more interested in actually doing things because they have interactions with these characters on a regular basis. Skink, Ricky, the three orcs, even though they really haven't interacted with the three orcs, they're always there because everyone loves recurring characters. Captain Benedict. Who else is recurring at this point? Steel Horizons hasn't been going on long enough to have a recurring character yet, but there will be recurring characters. You already know. You guys already know that Caliber is going to show up more than once. Always. This just his introduction alone. You all should immediately know that Caliber is coming back. Obviously.
He's a fan.
Oh yeah, and then my guest stars. My guest stars are always going to come back whenever Dota calms down. I don't know if we're actually going to even be able to play in August at all because of all the we play and all the things that are happening in August. I don't know if we're going to play at all. So I'm trying to figure that out at the moment because I'm losing 4 of my players total are doing we play. And then ESL has another huge event happening at that the rest of them are going to. So that's what I have to do. And I don't know if Chris Marrow is still here. Is Chris Marrow still here? Yes, he is. Okay. Or whoever you are, he or she. I just want to ask in chat, do I have lighting indoors set up? I actually do, and I can show you guys that. Because if I click on my character, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to daytime. Is it daytime already? Yeah, it's at 0 darkness level. It's just the way it looks. But when I click on someone, actually, you know what? I'm going to set a light in here that makes it bright. So I have doors and stuff set up in this room, right? So you can move and you can click on the door and it actually shows bright versus dim light. And then the dark vision is also another thing that you have to think about. Close the door. Yeah. So does that answer your question? Like designing encounters, in my opinion, is all about what your players enjoy doing. Because if you have recurring characters no longer includes Alpha Kiss, even though we do have an Alpha Kiss specific adventure that we have to play through in order to introduce an endgame character that currently exists. We have to do another thing that Alpha Kiss does happen to exist in. But just just take notes for yourself. What every GM needs to do is after you're finished playing a session, get feedback. Always. Every session, you should always get feedback from your players, because if you don't, you're doing them a disservice because you don't understand what they enjoy. Because the point of D&D is to have fun. If someone's not having fun, it's not that you're not doing your job. It's just that you need to figure out what they enjoy and how to make it enjoyable for that person. If someone wants to murder Hobo, give them a reason to murder Hobo, but in a controlled manner so that everyone enjoys doing it. If you find that the HP is too high, then change the HP on the enemy. If you find out that there are too many people, make a pit open up. Who gives a shit? It's your game. You do whatever you want. Right? It's your game. You are the determining factor on whether it's fun or not. And if the combat is too hard, you change whatever you need to change to make it better. If they can adjust to half their hit points being gone at any given moment, then that sounds about right. If they're not doing enough damage overall or they're missing a lot, reduce that monster's hit points every turn until it's obtainable, right? For example, when they fought the giant beholder, that was absolutely losing fight, 100%. I didn't know that I already had written that in my giant beholder fight that daylight does a set amount of damage to every part of the character, the beholder that is in sunlight. All 4 eye stalks were in sunlight, and it does 40 damage per turn. Per stock.
Okay. So then in that case, for when you do stuff in the back scene, would you explicitly state that, you know, the daylight is doing something, or you just kind of let it happen in the background while the actual
I
fight's
let it
going
happen
on?
in the background because it's one thing. The players were stressed as shit. I don't know if you've watched that fight, but every single person that was playing that day, they were so focused on descriptions, what exactly he was doing. The second that I made that perception check to see if he recognized that Staff of Power, everybody look on their faces at that moment during that clip. I promise you their faces go, oh, this is really bad, right? Because they know exactly what's about to happen. Because he hadn't introduced the non-Euclidean destruction beam yet. So the moment that happened, they all go, oh shit. So just saying that stuff does damage in the background doesn't matter. In the long run, it doesn't matter. But if they ask about it, then say, yeah, your daylight was the best thing you possibly could have done. So it's up to, like, you have to figure out the thin line between taking too much time describing things and doing it so that no one gets bored, right? So, for example, if people start looking at their phone during play, you're having issues. You need to figure out why they're looking at their phone and why exactly things are happening the way that they're happening. Like, it's one of those things that no one playing should be bored. They should all be immersed. You should just basically try and make it to where everyone is always paying attention.
That is actually an amazing point. Because we've recently started using face cams for my session as well. For that reason, I wanted to see how engaged my players were. And one thing I found, the problem is that they like to split up, like not in like a cave or like a dungeon, but like whenever they're in the city, they just like go 4 different directions. I have to just cut between each one of them, and while I'm doing one person's description, the other people just don't really care. So
Okay, so
I don't want to like destroy them, like have them get ganked by like a bunch of like
so
orcs or something.
here's the thing about splitting up in a city. Make it define whether or not splitting up in a city is dangerous. Define that before they decide to split up. Okay? Make it apparent. If you go into a city, for example, if they went into the capital, there's no one in the capital around. Are they going to fucking go shopping? No. No, they're not, right? Make it very apparent that if they split up, it's a terrible idea. Or, like I did with the Chapel Hag. The second that Elphicus walked off, she was like, yeah, I got it. Boom, bitch. I got you. And then they had to search for Elphicus. That sort of made a really fun adventure out of it, right? Where if you have something pre-set up where someone's going to get ambushed, make it interesting. Make it to where they'll think about splitting up next time, right? You need to make what is it called? A standard of quality. So a baseline or a benchmark. Make a benchmark for if you split up, this happens on a regular basis. Maybe we shouldn't split up anymore. Get what I mean? Or if it's stuff that can be done within done between sessions or when things are not as combat oriented, tell them no. There's nothing wrong with telling your players no, but you have to give it justification. If you just tell people no, they're not going to have enjoyment. I try not to say no to anything because, my thing is you can try, but I love saying that because everyone goes, fuck, what does that mean? Because saying you can try is like, wait, I don't understand what that means, because you can try genuinely says that you may have the ability to. It's not guaranteed, and the results are not always going to be the same every time you do it. You get what I mean? It sort of throws that bone in there that says, hey, I'm picking up what you're trying to do, but I don't know if you want to do it. It's up to you.
Yeah. Throw in the, interesting. Are you sure you want to do that? And then they freak out.
No, that's why you say you can try, or you verify every time they do an action. You say, are you sure you want to do that? And then it sort of makes them think about what they're doing more often than not.
Mm-hmm. Some great advice.
And I thought of a thing for your guy that likes to torture people. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to make sure you have that witness that gets away. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And if they're torturing the same evil bad guy people, the next time he stabs someone, that person explodes and almost kills that character.
Ooh. Okay.
So they're literally a living bomb. So anytime he wants to do that, if he wants to tie someone up and stab them, those are specific things. Technically speaking, you could make a spell that has that specific of trigger actions on it, right? Where that is on or make it apparent that every single one of these dudes has a strange tattoo on their neck. And you're like, I don't know.
Is there a specific spell in D&D that would do that? Or is that homebrew?
It would be hold on. It is I don't know if it's evocation, but it's like a rune what is it? It's rune of, or like there's a rune of explosion. Hold on, I'll find it. I actually used it in one campaign where they chained to each other and it blew up the whole dungeon.
Ooh, I like that, yeah.
Because the duration on it is like 24 hours or something. So technically speaking, as long as they continually casted it and rested, or if they had a ring of spell storing, they could just store a bunch of them and then put them all together. Is it Glyph of Warding? Hold on, I think it is Glyph of Warding.
I think Glyph of Warding is Abjuration.
Yes, Glyph of Warding is exactly what I'm talking about. Except you make this motherfucker 9th level, and then you change the dice on it. So basically make a specific explosive rune that's a tattoo.
I actually really like that idea.
Where that puts into perspective, holy shit, we can't do this anymore, or else we'll die. And then that also says the big bad guy has caught on to what you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's actually, I love that. Because it adds so much flavor as well. It's like it plays into that sort of like
but
gives them
the
spy flavor they want, but it's like it also prevents them from dragging the game out with pacing if they try and keep doing these.
Exactly, and the big one that you need to realize is you have to have that informant that is invisible, right? That they can't see, or maybe they catch a glimpse of. That is your stabby villain, or your little shoot him and run away villain, right? That guy specifically has been watching your party do this for a long time. And you could even say that now. You could tell your players now, every time that they try and do, like literally on the next time he goes to interrogate someone, they all have this weird glyph on their neck, and I don't understand what it is. Make an Arcana check. Okay, well, this is a glyph of nuking. Who fucking knows? Make up your own word for it. It's your game. You could do whatever you want. Remember that. You don't have to follow the rules. There's nothing in the Dungeon Master's Guide that says you have to follow everything to a T. As if anything, that says that they don't have to do that. There's nothing in the Dungeon Master's Guide that says you have to follow the rules of D&D. You can make up whatever you want.
Oh yeah. That's
so
the best part.
That's huge in the fact that you can do that if it's in your storyline. Basically, if your big bad guy's a spellcaster, there you go. He made his own spell. Making your own spells is a thing that you can do. You can make your own spells in D&D. No one ever utilizes it because it's an extremely complicated system that's really difficult to balance. So
Uh-huh.
that's my only issue with it. So, oh god, and then you could have it be like a disease on top of that, because it's an exploding person that gives them a disease.
Oh, yeah, like a disease rune. Okay, gives them like you try to interrogate this guy and now you have syphilis. Sorry.
Oh no, I'd make it worse than syphilis. I would make it that for every day they don't get it dispelled, they start permanently losing stats.
Oh, mind like a mind drain. So
Yep.
it makes him too dumb to even do that next time.
Exactly.
Oh man, who needs mind flayers? Just put that stuff on you, everyone.
Exactly. But if all of his minions have that, dude, oh my god.
Oh my god.
That would
The end.
Well, think about
I
it.
love that.
Like it's so brutal. And
Yeah, I love
and
that.
it would also motivate your characters to make sure that everyone is dead. because
Absolutely.
if they're alive at that point, there's nothing wrong with slitting someone's throat. But if they're alive, and for example, you could technically make the heart rate trigger, right? Because if you're getting heart triggered, your heart rate goes up, and then that specifically triggers the rune to activate, or maybe make a critical fail if they're trying to shoot him or stab him, that they hit the glyph instead, and the glyph makes them explode.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
That kind of thing. You could introduce a lot of really fun aspects to that. You just have to be a little creative.
That is genuinely so awesome. I can't wait to brainstorm some stuff with that and flavor it for the world. I love that so much. Thank you.
No, McVenner. He did not. It wasn't the crow that killed him. It was falling out of the carriage that killed Elficus. Literally, like had Elficus not fallen out of the carriage at the beginning of the session, he wouldn't have needed to make death saving throws at all.
Every hit point counts.
Exactly. Effective hit points. If you walk into an encounter and you're missing a third of your hit points, you're having issues. So.
Actually, cause I'm just finished running Lost Mine of Fendover, so now my party's moving into homebrew stuff. So this is more for me, but I think this is a cool question that I think people would be interested in. What are your like top 3, I guess, favorite adventure hooks, like ways to like start off a new like plot thread?
But the problem with that question is that is infinite. That is an infinite question, technically speaking. So my favorite adventure hooks is cool. The first thing I like to do is there's some people that I have played with in the past that enjoy having controversial characters or chaotic characters. Okay, for example, Elficus. The easiest thing to do with someone like that, you all belong to a guild and you have been running together, because everyone should start at level 3. You should never start at level 1. Level 1 is literally the worst level you can start at, because you have one option and that's it. You can't do anything else in combat, and you're really boring and your stats suck and all sorts of stuff. So, that being said, you're level 3. You have been partying and adventuring together since level 1, and you are all cordial. Solved. You've solved that issue. You're part of the Slayers Guild. You're part of an Adventurers Guild. You're bounty hunters. You are part of the Ravnican guilds in Magic the Gathering. Like that's one of my favorites, because it dissolves interpersonal issues from the beginning, therefore justifying that no one is angry with each other and no one doesn't like each other. Bam. You've solved one issue a lot of GMs have, is when their characters don't like each other. Well, they do like each other because you've been adventuring with each other for 6 months.
Yeah, I should have done that. Instead, I was stupid, and on my party, one of the rogues is investigator, like a city watch. The other one's a pirate, and that did not work out.
Oh, that would be fun, though, to be honest with you. I think that'd be really
It was fun, but they were at each other's throats
Another
the entire
one is everyone is teleported together from different planes onto a brand new plane of existence that they've never seen before.
Ooh.
Because it's a brand new world that they don't understand. They have to figure it out. Another really fun one is shipwrecking people for like a one-shot. My favorite one-shot ever that I've ever run is... I don't know if anyone is watching that's going to be a part of it. Hold on. I have to actually look at the people watching it. because I'm running a one shot for a bunch of people.
Oh, spoilers?
And well, it's not going to be on stream. But that being said, I want to make sure that no one that's going to be there is watching right now. So, imagine you make a bunch of 5th and 6th level characters. This isn't going to be for Neff, by the way. Neff, if you're fucking here right now, this is not the one I'm running with you. So, fuck off.
So he says.
So imagine that your whole party wakes up and they're each divided in pairs into cells in a prison. They have no equipment, they have no abilities, and they all have collars around their necks. And when they start spellcasting, the collar begins to heat up.
Oh,
What
like,
do
Divinity.
you
Yeah.
do? You're not allowed to spellcast, and you have no equipment. What do
Make
you do?
friends, I guess.
Do they remember who they are? or
Yes.
How they got?
Yes. It's literally one of my favorite adventure hooks because and this is for, I do this specifically for people who have already played D&D for a significant amount of time, because the role playing is genuinely 80 to 90% of this specific session. You get what I mean?
Absolutely, I can totally see that. Yeah.
Is this one that's like pre-written?
No, I made this one up,
you-
and I've been trying to commission someone to make a map for me. So
Yeah, because it already sounds like an interesting premise of something I would steal.
no, you're more than welcome to have it. And eventually, when I get a map made and stuff, I'll probably post it when I do Patreon. So, because it's one of my favorite ones I've ever run. Is basically imagine waking up and like there's no metal; it's all wood. The whole thing is wood and concrete. So, and you're trapped on an island. That imagine the big daddies from BioShock, except they're all really high level spellcasters. Are your wardens?
Jesus.
Wow, that's actually like, I like that. Would the players know why they've been in prison, or is it
Nope.
like that part of the intrigue? So
That's part of
the
it as well.
mystery.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So they just like wake up one day and there's these big daddies looking at them.
Yep. And then I've done another whole 8-week campaign with some of my friends in real life. This is my first ever paid DMing job, is when I worked at a LAN center. They paid me to run Dungeons and Dragons. I ran this one where they were in Ravnica, but they went on an adventure and they went to a new plane of existence called the Nothing Nowhere. Okay? And what this plane of existence is it was an island that was completely self-sufficient, except for the fact that they didn't realize that they were in a pocket dimension where a Cthulhu-type enemy was attempting to make himself real.
Dun dun dun.
And the description for one of the cultists is my favorite description I have ever written, and I will never forget it. Okay? So here's my description of one of the cultists once they figure out what their true form looks like. Okay? So imagine you're walking down a pier. It's a wooden pier. It's completely drenched in water because the rain has begun to come down. It comes down, and directly in front of you, there is a man dressed in white robes, completely drenched from head to toe, carrying a large tome. When I say a large tome, probably 3 feet wide, and when it's closed, it's probably like 4 inches thick. So it's heavy, big, heavy, leather-bound tome. What he does is he looks directly at you, and his eyes begin to sink back onto the sides of his skull, and he begins to take on the visage of some sort of fish. You're not really sure, but his eyes begin to cloud as he looks directly up into the sky. He takes the book and he opens the book into the rain, pushes the book upward. The book begins to float directly above his hands, about 6 inches above his hands. His mouth, you can hear the bones crack as his mouth begins to widen and the skin stretches and the gills appear on his neck, and it creates a very large, wide mouth appearance directly below the book. And as he turns around to face away from you toward the large ivory statue in the distance, that is constantly bleeding ink from the large book above the statue into these large cauldrons at the base. The large, wide mouth of this cultist begins to drink as the rain touching the book turns directly into black and purple iridescent ink that begins to drip into his mouth. The gurgling noise that you hear from him, drowning almost, is what it sounds like from this ink that he is ingesting in this sort of arcane and eldritch ritual, hurts you almost physically as he does it. And what you don't realize is as you look around and you're just staring, you can't take your eyes off of it, but in your periphery you see some movement. You don't realize you're able to take your eyes off for a second, and there are 50 other of these creatures that are taking part of this eldritch ritual as the ink begins to flow into their bellies. That is my description of one of the cultists.
Dude, I have goosebumps right now. Was that off the cuff, or did you have that like pre-written somewhere and you're reading?
That was genuinely off the cuff when I first wrote it. Yeah.
That, jeez, man.
That is, by the way, that is a horror campaign, like straight up from the beginning horror. So
Absolutely, no, that's like some Call of Cthulhu stuff.
that's
right
exactly
there.
what it's inspired by. And the Great Ancient One is he's an ancient one that if his name is written, he becomes real. So if you write his name, he becomes real, and his whole power is he has a quill in one hand, and his hand has been cut off from his arm. So it's like its own floating hand, and that's like his whole thing is his hand was cut off by some of the other ancient ones so that he would stop existing. And if he writes his name in a book, he exists, and therefore anything else he writes in the book exists. So the whole purpose of it is to prevent him from coming into the world.
That is, what kind of prep work do you have to do to be able to like give that kind of delivery, like just on the spot?
20 years of experience.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. All right, got a long road ahead.
Just practice. So what I would recommend doing, what I did first, is go by yourself. Go watch movies by yourself. It's one of the best experiences you could ever have, in my opinion. If you go watch a movie by yourself, your thoughts are your own. How would you describe things? So one of the things that you could do is go to a park and do some people watching, but now it's sort of sketchy if you do that. But go somewhere where you can see lots of people. As you're watching people or doing whatever it is you're doing, if you're eating with some of your friends, take a moment of contemplation. How would you describe the situation you're currently in to people that have never seen it before? Right now I'm streaming. What I would describe it as my perspective is you sit relatively uncomfortably in your chair. You're sitting in front of a microphone. You know that people are watching you. You don't really know how to think about these specific things, but all that you can think about is whether or not the information that you're conveying is proper and well said. Okay, you're surrounded by these lights that are actually blinding on your periphery, and you're looking at your actual 4 monitor setup, realizing that one of your monitors is off because if you have all your monitors on, it gets really hot in here. Where is your cat at the moment? Like, how would you describe the situation you're currently in a situation that you're not normally in, right? Because if you go, let's say you go drinking one night, just sit and think about for 5 minutes, how would you describe this bar that you're in? Would you describe it as a dive bar? Would you describe it as a biker bar? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? What does the lighting look like? Getting proper and well done descriptions is taking all the information in and then processing it in a way that you understand and that other people will understand from hearing it. Make those things that you understand legible to other people. You get what I mean?
Absolutely, I'm gonna start doing that.
So if you want to be a good dungeon master, improvisation is the biggest thing. If you're sitting around watching people and a fight all of a sudden breaks out, think about it in your head. It's unfortunately that's happened to me before. Think about what that would sound like, what that would smell like, what would that happen, like what caused this in your mind to sort of extrapolate your own little storyline for that. You really need to think about your world and how you see it and how you can describe that to other people in a way that they understand. That's my recommendations. The big one is just pay attention to what is happening around you. Make your situational awareness better than what it is. Make your situational awareness the best you possibly can. Because if you understand everything that's happening around you, you can convey that to other people in a way that they understand.
I'm just gonna go Ultra Instinct 24/7 from now on.
That will cause a toll on you, but the only reason I have that is purely because I was in the military. I can't help myself. I've been trained, and it's just what it is.
Yeah, blessing and a curse, I guess. Time to turn me as well.
Yeah, but I think that's where I'm going to call it.
All right,
I think
it's
I'm
been
gonna.
an amazing session.
Yeah, I didn't expect it
great
to be a
talking to
Q&A,
you.
but there we are.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering
You're
all our
welcome.
questions.
It was very much appreciated. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, post it in the Dungeons and Dragons channel, and my mods or I will pin it so that whenever I do another one of these, because I have to stream 3 times a week, and pretty much at this point until Baldur's Gate 3 or Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, I'm not really gonna have any content to stream because I don't want to stream the games I play because I don't talk. When I play games, I don't talk. I think that's all I do. So it's not enjoyable to watch unless you enjoy someone that doesn't talk.
It's relatable. At least
Yeah.
for me, it is.
Oh, that's true, but I wouldn't enjoy watching it, and I'm not going to make content that I wouldn't enjoy watching. If I'm being honest. So it turned out to be pretty good so far. I'm glad I could answer your questions, but seriously, if you guys have questions, join the Discord. Subscribe to YouTube. That'd be cool to monetize YouTube because any money I get from this goes back into the stream. Literally, that's like my thing because I'm a disabled veteran, so I make enough money to live off my disability, and everything else I get purely goes into, let's be real, either goes into my Steam account or it goes back into the stream. So that's literally all I do. So yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw, but we have subscriber badges now. They're little
awesome.
They're little
I love
coins
them.
with coins with D20s in them, and Sarich made those actually. So thank that man.
Thank you, Sarich. Sarich.
Sarich. That's how he pronounces it. So yeah, it was great talking to you guys. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do today. I'm probably gonna go run or something. I should.
I'm about to go run too.
I should go work out. My knees are bad, but that's all right.
Let's go run.
All right. I will talk to you guys later. I think my Seeds of Destruction does not have a date yet because let's be real, August is going to be nuts anyway. So, but Steel Horizons is Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday, I think. So yeah, just be ready for Steel Horizons. Shit's about to get real. Well, let's be real. Every time I play, shit gets real. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Merci beaucoup. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys when I talk to you. Feel free to discuss stuff. Ask questions in the Discord. I'm usually here, and if you guys have questions, message me. Genuinely. If I don't answer right away, don't be upset, but I promise you I'll try and answer your questions. And I may or may not be posting this to YouTube. I don't know yet. I probably will, but mark it as Q&A number 3 because I don't know. But I will.
That's kind of what it became.
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't intended to be that, but here we are. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful day.
All right. See you, Devin.
Bye.